Hey guys, it's me. It's December 9th. I wanted to make a video today that I've been excited about making pretty much all year long. I wanted to make a little video about my running journey through 2016 and the goal that I set for myself to run 12 half marathons in 12 months. I just completed my 12th last weekend, and achieved my goal in doing so. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about it. So I thought I would talk first a little bit about my background and the reason I set the goal, and then I briefly wanted to tell you guys about each race, and then we can talk about my next running goals. So as you can see behind me, we have my little metal display here, which I made, and if you're interested in that, I actually made a video, like a tutorial on how to make it. Anyway, these are the half marathons that I've run. There's actually two here which were from 2015. So it's the other 12 that I'll talk about today. Background. So I was never really a runner, but running a half marathon was always kind of one of those things I always thought I would like to be able to do that one day. I used to work with a girl years ago who was not a runner by any means when I knew her, and then I left that company but kept in touch with her, and she just started running and joined a running club and started working up to these higher, longer distances, and then she ran a half marathon in New York, and I just thought that was amazing. And then she ran the New York City Marathon several years ago, and I just couldn't believe that this girl who I knew who was not a runner by any means had worked her way up to the New York Marathon. So I thought, that's really cool. I really want to be able to achieve something like that one day. And that's kind of what inspired me. She was kind of my inspiration to get into it. At the beginning of 2015, last year, I set a goal for myself to work up to a half marathon. And I did, and I ran my first one in April of 2015. I'm not really going to talk about those ones because I wanted to make a separate video about other things I've done, but achieved my first half marathon in April 2015. And then I ran a second one at the end of the year in November. That's these two at the front here. Simultaneously, beginning of 2016, I got this crazy idea that I should apply to run the New York City Marathon. That's kind of my dream. It still is my dream. As you guys may or may not know, it's kind of a lottery system in New York. There's a few ways to get in, but I applied through the lottery and didn't get in. That would have been for the marathon that just finished last month. Didn't get in. I was really disappointed. It's not quite surprising because the odds are kind of against you, but when I didn't get in, I thought, well, if I'm not going to be marathon training all year, what should I do? And I just kind of decided, why don't I do a half marathon every month? That's good motivation. It'll keep me moving, and I set that goal. I kind of had all of these thoughts in January of this year. So that was when I was applying for the New York Marathon, and so I actually didn't run a race in January. My first one that I signed up for was actually this one, the Rock and Roll Half Marathon Series half marathon in New Orleans, which I think was on the 28th of February. I signed up for that one. That was really cool because my husband also signed up to run a 10K. It was the same day. So it was going to be his first 10K as well as my first half marathon of the year. So, and then I got all excited and signed up for another race. 2 weeks before that was the Austin half marathon, which I hadn't signed up for, but then I was all inspired and I was like, well, if I run a half marathon every month this year, I didn't do one in January, so I better do two in February. So I signed up for the Austin half, and that was my actual first of the year on February 14th, on Valentine's Day. Really fun race. It's pretty challenging. We're pretty hilly here in Austin, so it wasn't easy, and I hadn't really prepared much. The idea to run all these races just kind of came to me. So that was a tough race. I was kind of hurting at the end. And then I only had 2 weeks to prepare for the New Orleans one, which was a great race. It was a flat course, especially compared to Austin. Really cool to be able to run through all these beautiful areas of New Orleans and the French Quarter. And with that, I was off on my half marathon every month journey, and I was also back on track. So if you've ever run an organized race, you already know that there they're not cheap, and they're also not available all the time, unless you're traveling all over the place to run them. So what I realized at the end of February was I need to find another option here for my races, and that's when I discovered virtual races. Just the idea that you sign up for a run. There's a lot of companies that do them, which I'll talk about. And then you basically run the distance, whatever distance you've signed up for, anywhere you want, at any time you want. And a lot of these companies will send you a medal, some of them will even send you a bib. You can post photos or whatever, and some of them have like big online communities. So I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And also they're a whole lot cheaper than regular races. The first company I found was a company called 131 Event Productions, or 13.1, which is like, I don't actually know much about what they do. It's some company in Indiana that has in-person real races a few times a year in Indiana, but they also offer virtual races. So that was the first one I signed up. So I did in March this race, and I'll show you guys all the medals, but I did this virtual race called the WTF run. I pretty much signed up because I liked the name, and also the medal is a snow globe. Can you see that? WTF exclamation point is supposed to stand for Winter Trail Frosty. But I thought that was really cool. I had never heard of the concept of the virtual run before. So did that one in March, and then I was hooked. I signed up in April for another one of their runs, which I also basically signed up for because I thought the name was funny. It was the Bunny Stomp virtual half marathon. They also had some pretty unique medals, I thought, this company. This is like the evil bunny, and it's a spinner. I don't really know the significance, but I did that one in April. So I thought that was kind of a great way. But then I found other companies that actually have races with proceeds going to charities, and from that point I kind of switched into that direction. I don't think the 13.1 Events company does any charity donations, so if you can, then why not, right? So in May, I signed up for a race through Races for Awareness, which is a cool website. They have all kinds of virtual runs with proceeds going to all kinds of different charities. At that point, there was one that I thought was interesting. It was called We Run for Flint, and it was a virtual race with proceeds going towards the Flint water crisis. It was an organization called Catholic Charities of Flint that worked with several organizations there in Flint, trying to get clean water to the people who live there. By the way, we're now more than a year on, and they still don't have clean water up in Flint everywhere. So I thought that was pretty cool. I loved the idea that you could sign up, pay $20, $30 for a race and have proceeds going to a cool charity. Of course, you get a medal, which I'm all about, as you can tell. So by that point, we're in May-ish, April, May. I was kind of obsessed with the concept of the virtual runs and finding all these running groups and stuff. And that's when I found the Hogwarts Running Club, which is a huge online community of runners. It's a virtual running group. They have an enormous presence, probably the biggest running group I've ever found. And it's all Harry Potter themed runs. I'm not the world's biggest Harry Potter fan. If you want to find them, they're in that group. But it's very well organized. They have really cool races, and they donate all their proceeds to charities. So I signed up for a couple runs. I've actually signed up for several runs through them. Not all of them are half marathon distances, so today is only about the halves. On June 28th, I ran the Half-Blood Prince half marathon, which was a cool organization, I thought. Alan Rickman was Snape, and he died from pancreatic cancer. So this race donated its proceeds to an organization called Project Purple, which raises awareness and provides support to patients and families of who are suffering from pancreatic cancer, which is a rough one to get a diagnosis of. I thought that was kind of a great organization. I liked the concept concept of the Half-Blood Prince half marathon, and so I signed up for that one. I have to actually grab something else for this next run to show you guys, because my July run was another Hogwarts Running Club race, and it was actually called the House Marathon, which was just a really cool idea to me. So I have to get something else and I'll show you guys. So when you join the Hogwarts Running Club, you have to join a house. You can choose your house, so I signed up with Gryffindor. They offered a house marathon competition, 4 races of varying distances, with the total distance being 1 full marathon. So I thought that was really cool. So over here you have this was the Gryffindor 21K half marathon, which I did. But then there were also 3 others. What did they have? The Hufflepuff 5K, there was the Slytherin 6K, Ravenclaw 10K. And these 4 medals interlock, and then there's like a central keystone, which I think is cool. All of these races went to charities benefiting different animals, which I thought was cool. There was the Hufflepuff 5K donated to the Save Me Trust in London, which was working to catch, vaccinate, and release badgers to prevent bovine tuberculosis and badger cold. I don't know really what any of that means. I also don't exactly know what a Hufflepuff is. Is a Hufflepuff a badger? I don't really know. But anyway, then the the Slytherin 6K went to Friends of Scales in Chicago to help them build a reptile rescue facility to provide care for abandoned reptiles, which was nice. The Ravenclaw 10K went to the International Bird Rescue in San Francisco to build a new aviary for animals or birds that had been involved in oil spills and natural disasters. And the Gryffindor 21K half marathon went to Big Cat Rescue in Tampa to build a bobcat rehab facility to minimize human contact so they can eventually return those cats to the wild. So I thought it was fun. It was a little more expensive because it was 4 races, but you're helping the animals, so that's good, right? These medals are supposed to lock together with magnets, but I think they had a design flaw in the Hogwarts Running Club medal facility. They're too heavy, so they fall apart. So a couple of months ago they sent, or a couple of months later I guess, they had these plexiglass stands made and gave them to everyone for free so that you can at least display the medals. So I don't have these on display because, again, the half marathon medals are the only ones that get to go up here, but I have that one elsewhere in the house. So that was that marks the conclusion of my Hogwarts Running Club half marathon distances. I did a couple others, like I said. For personal reasons, I've sort of lost my affinity for the Hogwarts Running Club. If you're curious why, I will talk to you about it privately. They've sort of been copying races from other organizations and taking credit, and I think it's actually really uncool. But I liked these races, and they were a good part of my goal this year. So I didn't quite run a half marathon every month consecutively. Like I said, I ran 2 in February because I hadn't made the idea yet in January, or hadn't finalized it anyway. So I did 2 in February. It's really hot in Austin in the summer. Last summer I actually didn't run at all because it's like 100+ degrees for months on end. And it was tough doing it here and keeping up with it. So I did the what did I do? Yeah, I did the Half-Blood Prince half marathon in June. July was tough, so I didn't do the house marathon actually, which should have been done in July. I did it in August, so nothing in July. And then in September I actually did 2 races to catch up. September 6th I found the Jedi awareness race. I have some notes here, as you can tell, through another organization called Full Metal Runs. So this was one of a series of, I guess, Star Wars themed runs that they did. The Jedi Training Academy, I don't know, this was the first one. It was called the Initiate Run. Races for Awareness is another, this was Full Metal Runs. It's the same idea, really good runs, good charities. I don't I'm also sort of like a mini Star Wars fan, not a big one. I haven't even seen all the new movies yet, but this run's proceeds went to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which I think is a great organization. I know 2 families personally that have benefited from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. That's the only reason I signed up for them, because I wanted to help in that way. I think the medal's kind of ugly, and I'm not necessarily a big Star Wars fan, but Make-A-Wish, so that was that. I did that one on September 6th. After that, I got back into more organized races. So the back row here, these are all the virtual runs that I did throughout the year, and the front row is the like organized, more official races. On September 25th, I flew from Austin up to Iowa to do the Quad Cities half marathon, which is this one. If you guys have followed me for a long time, you know that my mom used to live in Iowa. I did too. So it was really kind of special to me to run this Quad Cities half marathon. The Quad Cities is the area where my mom lived. It's 4 cities. It's actually more than 4, but it's essentially 4 cities, 2 on the Iowa side, 2 on the Illinois side. They're all like right next to each other, so half the time you don't really know which one you're in. And it's bisected by the Mississippi River. So it was really interesting to go back there and run that race. I have only been back to Iowa once in the 5-6 years since my mom passed away, and so it was a great run. It was really cool. You know, it ran through both states. It ran through all 4 cities. It ran across several bridges across the Mississippi River, and it was just kind of a meaningful run. I was thinking about my mom a lot of the time while I was running it. There's an island in the middle of the Mississippi River. It's called Arsenal Island. It's an army base, and that's where my mom used to work. So it was interesting to like run there and like run by her office. And I don't know, it was kind of like a tribute run to her. It was something that was important to me to do, and I had a great time with that. So I probably won't be flying to Iowa for any more races, but I'm really glad that I went, and it was really quite a special run for me. So in October, I decided to outdo myself, I guess, and step things up a notch. I have a friend up in Canada who lives in Victoria, and he and I have been chatting about the rock and roll half marathon in Vancouver. I've never been to Vancouver. I had heard it was really beautiful, and I had kind of been thinking about it and thinking of, should I do this? Should I book this? Found really cheap plane tickets, decided to fly up to Vancouver to run this half marathon, and my friend from Victoria was going to come to Vancouver as well to meet up. This race series, a lot of the rock and roll series runs have a 10K as well as a half and full marathon, and I saw that there was a 10K the day before the half. So I told my friend, I said, "You're going to run with me." He didn't want to do the half marathon, but he agreed to do the 10K. So then somehow I realized I had signed myself up to do a 10K followed by a half marathon the next day, which I've never done before, so I was kind of scared. It was an amazing trip to Vancouver. I really, really had an amazing time hanging out with my friend, meeting a lot of his friends, and running these 2 beautiful races. I really lucked out weather-wise. It was supposed to rain the whole time I was in Vancouver, but it actually kind of didn't. Just a little sprinkle here and there. The 10K day was beautiful. We ran around the seawall in a park called Stanley Park, which is kind of connected to the downtown. So you've got this beautiful park with all the fall foliage on one side, and then the waterfront on the other side, mountains in the background, and then the city of Vancouver like behind you. Super, super beautiful. Just a great run. It was also really fun to run with my friend. I've never done that before. I ran with 2 friends, actually, kind of. I met another friend of friend up there, and the 3 of us actually ran together. I'll put some pictures here. So it was me and Jason and Chris at the starting line, and I didn't really know if we'd all be able to run together or not, or if we just do it on our own paces. But as soon as we crossed the starting line, Chris took off and disappeared, and we didn't see him until the end. But I ended up running the whole way with Jason, and that was kind of fun to share that experience with another person. So I really enjoyed that. Did well, didn't push too hard on the 10K because I knew I had the half marathon the next day. The next day's half marathon was beautiful. It was raining like leading up to the race, but I swear as soon as we crossed the starting line, the rain stopped, and then it was just a perfect run. Really beautiful. This one took a different course and just kind of circled the, I don't know the terminology up there, but circled like the island sort of that downtown Vancouver is on, or the peninsula, I don't know. And then it did go up into that park again, but it ran through it versus around it like I had done the day before. Super beautiful. I just loved Vancouver, and it was really fun to do these like kind of destination races. You feel like your trip is justified, and the money you spend on your trip is justified when you're doing something healthy. So, and the medal has a beaver on it. Guys, have you seen? I got a medal with a beaver. That's pretty much the best thing ever. We were making all kinds of jokes about chasing beaver in Canada, and like it was very entertaining for us. You may have had to be there, had to have been there, whatever. I got a shitload of bling up there, so I got a 10K medal, I got the half marathon medal, I got another medal for running both races. They call it their remix challenge. And then I got this other medal called World Rocker through the RNR organization for having run RNR races in 2 different countries, the US and Canada. So I had like bling out the wazoo, but you know, I'm kind of all about that. So that was Vancouver. I also realized I was getting faster as the weather was cooling. I broke my personal record in Vancouver. I ran a lot faster than I realized, and it wasn't until the end of the race, like I was literally at something like mile 11 when I was like, wow, if I keep this up, I'm gonna get my fastest pace, and I wasn't even trying. So clearly running in 60-degree weather is easier than running in 100-degree weather. So I was pretty happy about that to break my record in Vancouver. The next month in November, I did another virtual race. This was the race I did. It was called the One Tough Mother Runner virtual race. There's Rosie the Riveter there. I also didn't realize that this medal is a wine cork as well, because you know, tough mothers need wine to get through, right? Anyway, that was another virtual race. I just did it here downtown in Austin. That proceeds for that race go to the Family Lives On Foundation, helping ongoing support to children who have lost their parents. So I'm one of those, I guess, many of us are. So it was another race that I kind of dedicated to my mom's memory. She was definitely one tough mother, and so it was kind of special to do that. Last weekend, I completed my final race of the year. I went down to San Antonio to do another organized race. It was another rock and roll series race, the Rock and Roll San Antonio Half Marathon, which was fun. I am not a big fan of San Antonio. I think it's kind of a boring city. Very different from Austin in contrast. It's only about an hour down the road, but these two cities couldn't be more different. But it was a great race in many different ways. I was also able to run with a friend. A nurse that I work with wanted to run it as well, so we drove down there together and ran the race together. We didn't run literally together, but we both did it, and it was a lot of fun. It was great to have another person there to share that experience with me. We faced new challenges with the San Antonio Half Marathon in that it was pouring rain. That whole weekend was really raining here, all across the middle of the country. When we started the race, it was not raining at all. About mile 5, the skies just opened, and like the wrath of God came down in the form of rain. It was torrential rains, and Texas doesn't really handle water very well. It doesn't rain all that often, so the drainage sucks. So after 30 minutes of pouring rain, it was just everywhere. We're running through like flowing water on the streets. Like some areas it was like this deep. It was nuts. I've never run like that, and at first I was like, oh, this sucks, this is not fun. And then I was just like, well, I'm totally soaked from head to toe. I'm just gonna keep going. And then by the end of it, I was like, I'm owning this. Like, this is a final challenge for my runs. I'm doing it. I haven't fallen or twisted an ankle yet. Like, this run isn't gonna stop me. It did stop me from breaking my record again. Vancouver was a record, and then the One Tough Mother race, I broke my record again. And I was like, San Antonio is a nice flat course, cool temperatures. I'm gonna break a record, but I didn't. But I didn't do bad either. So that was the end, guys. That was 12 months and 12 half marathons. A little close up of the display here. A couple of pictures. This was the Austin half, first race of the year. Oh look, there's me. Personal records. That's me. That was actually in 2015 at the South Padre race, which I didn't talk about, but that was a great one. And here's the collection. It feels really great to know that I was able to achieve that goal. I thought it was a big, lofty goal. I didn't know if I would be able to do it, but I just kept at it. And you can see I love the bling. So at the end, I've got all these medals to look by. This is actually a really weird place to be filming. It's at the top of my stairs, kind of in a little mini hallway here between the bedrooms. But there's an empty wall here, and it was a perfect place to put this display case. Not necessarily just because I want to look at all that sparkly bling, but it's also just like an inspiration wall for me. I have my personal records up here, which I luckily have been able to kind of update throughout the year. Yeah, it's been a great year. Finishing the San Antonio half, I immediately felt a strange sense of like loss. Like, what am I going to do now? I've been working at this all year, thinking about it, talking about it too much. And then it was done. So what am I going to do next? Well, two things. I actually work in my hospital's ICU where I work. There are a lot of people who run, and a lot of people who run pretty damn far. I was peer pressured by Amanda, the girl that I ran the San Antonio race with, another friend of mine, and several other nurse runner friends to sign up for the full marathon in August. It's actually in February, 2 months from now. Running the Austin half last February was really cool. I was so happy to start my year off on home turf. It's a tough race. There's a lot of hills. It's very challenging. But I got peer pressured into signing up for the full in February. So it's paid for. I guess it's happening. So even as I was finishing these last couple of halves, I was already kind of also in full marathon training mode, just kind of modifying the schedule. Now that San Antonio is done, I'm kind of stepping up my game for full marathon training. So if all goes well, I'm going to complete my very first full marathon in February on home turf, which is really cool. And then I'm going to apply for the New York City full marathon in November and see if I get in. I wanted New York to be my first full marathon ever. I used to live there, and I just think that's the coolest city to run a full marathon in, running through all the boroughs of New York. Just amazing. The New York City supporters are just incredible too. I've seen it happen there, I've witnessed it, and it's just amazing. I wanted that to be my first full, but I also can't wait forever for New York. Some people don't get in for years and years. So if I'm not doing New York as the first full marathon, second best is Austin. So those are my plans, my goals for 2017. I might die in the Austin full marathon, or break a leg, or have a stroke or something and never run again, or I might really like it and want to sign up for more. So, but I've definitely caught the bug, the running bug, and I've got several ideas for other halves I would like to do, and then working on these full marathons in 2017. I hope that was interesting for you guys. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen the updates. Every time I completed a half, I would post an image about it. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, you should. It's the same username, @Nico and that's it, guys. It's been a busy year of runs, and I'm really excited to see what is to come next. If you guys are runners or are doing something similar or want to talk about it, comment below. I'm really interested to see what other people do. If you make videos about running, let me know, because I'll check them out as well. Make sure you like this video and subscribe so that I know that it's interesting to you. And as I said, I will make another video at some point about some of the other races I've run and some of my favorite running organizations. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for making it through to the end. And until next time, take care, guys.